Look, internet, I mean well, and I have for 10 fucking years. Um, Long story short, keep in mind I'm usually very, very long-winded. But, so when I grumble that people don't have a fucking clue what's going on, if I start dressing it up without calling you out, specifically you, most people are going to assume that they are doing the right thing when in fact they are not doing the right fucking thing. If you looked around and you thought for yourself, you would realize that. In a number of ways, you are catering to the manipulative agendas that our masters are spoon feeding the masses. Which is why I've been barking at people. No one else is telling you that you need to rethink what you're fucking doing and think for yourself for the first time in your life. I don't see people doing that online, by and large. I really don't. Most people are playing follow the leader, and they're jerking each other off, which is why the truth community exists in the first place. It's why all these adult fairy tales are being circulated. People don't have the first fucking clue what's going on. They could, but they're not invested, they're not involved, they're not putting in the time. Instead, they're wasting their time chasing fucking bullshit online, which is what our masters want you to do. They want you to wear yourself out. And people don't understand that. That's why protesting is encouraged, among other things, including but not limited to wasting your time looking for structures on the moon, looking for crop circles, talking about Tartaria and the fucking mud flood. But people aren't very bright. So they do talk about Tartaria and the mud flood. They do talk about bullshit aliens that do not exist, cannot exist, will not exist. Because they want to believe in that. You and I are entertained on so many goddamn levels. You and I are lulled into sedation, by and large, through entertainment and the numerous other forms of modern conveniences. And people don't rethink any of this. Why is this in place? I've talked about this a lot. Why are you and I given the fucking internet? If our masters are corrupting, they're polluting the air, the water, the food supply, etc., etc. Mind you, they have control of the air, the water, and the food supply. We gave that to them. We allowed that to happen. But if they have all of these things already in their pocket, which means they are manipulating us, you and I do have masters. Why would they benevolently, I didn't say that word very well, but why would they, out of the kindness of their hearts, give us the internet to talk to each other? Why would they provide us with a form of communication like this? Some of you can look up some of the superficial shit. How many CIA bestsellers are shit out every single year? If you walk into a modern bookstore, you're probably not going to find too many books that are worth a damn. But front and center, at the front of the house, you're going to see a lot of bestsellers that are pointless fluff, granola garbage. And these days, divisive, very divisive, and full of agendas. Lazy people will probably pick those up and buy them. They'll probably look at them. This is not unlike why you have a feed on the internet. If you see some flashing lights, some tits jiggling, you hear an explosion, and or you're roped in with, I'm trying to think of how they usually dress it up, with some sort of mysterious element and or, aliens or some bullshit fucking story, you're probably going to stop and listen to it. Probably going to stop and listen to it. I usually pick on Billy Carson because he's always, he's controlled opposition and he shops around, Toth the Atlantean. And so the example I give you guys, superficially speaking, and people would know this if they use their brains, Atlantis is a second-hand tale allegedly given to Plato, and Toth, the Atlantean, isn't mentioned in there whatsoever. There's a bunch of bullshit Atlantis narratives. This is one of many examples. And people repeat this shit. And that's why you and I were given the internet. That's why you and I were given numerous forms of communication. And people didn't think twice about it. To prove that point, freedom of speech should exist. Freedom of speech today has nothing to do with community guidelines. And you and I didn't put anything in writing to protect us in this digital medium, which is how the bullshit society you and I were indoctrinated into works. Unfortunately. And it's because most of you out there aren't thinking for yourselves, which means you and I aren't surrounded by well-meaning people. The moral majority support our masters, not unlike the 1999 film The Matrix, where anyone can be an agent. There is a reason why this shit's in the programming. But you're not supposed to think about it. You're supposed to digest the latest content. If you and I were surrounded by well-meaning people willing to draw a line in the sand and do the right fucking thing, we wouldn't need something in writing to protect us in a digital medium and promote, what by all rights should be freedom of speech. Most people think they can change the system with the system, which is equally a problem. I mentioned that just because things are bad and most of you don't know what you're talking about. That's the best we could do unless you guys pulled your heads out of your ass and thought for yourselves. But people don't want to do that because thinking is hard. Instead, you want to talk about the fucking flat earth and the globe theory, neither of which you can use as a tool. That's why they lie. Those are bullshit outlines that do not reflect reality by and large or at all in many cases. Our masters are selling you the same fucking outline. And people are too stupid to recognize it. This is, again, one of many examples. It would come up, should come up, doesn't come up. What do I mean by that? Another CIA-sanctioned narrative was recently released as of roughly 2017. In recent times, mind you. What do they tell you? They tell you you got... Here. We'll use T. You got this here, and you got that there, and you got this over here, and you got that over there. We'll do one more for good measure. And these are all respective galaxies. They're all disconnected galaxies, right? And some of you will laugh. Yeah, the fucking globe heads are so stupid. Now, let's think about the flat earth. Each one of these is a dome. And there are all these islands out there outside of the ice wall. It's the same outline. People are just fucking stupid. I would prefer it not to be that way. Most people aren't going to tell you that. Most people aren't going to challenge you because most people are buying into positive vibes only and cancel culture, which boils down to censorship culture. People who actively promote patently fascist censorship. Which lends itself to the reason why I brought up, freedom of speech, which by all rights should fucking exist and doesn't. So again, superficial shit that people should know, people do not know, but they could know because it's still available to them. It's information that's available to the general public. The Republic, which would be for the people, by the people. It's what we should be today, but we're not. The Republic fell during the Civil War, was finalized in 1871. In 1871 is when our masters created the Organic Act. That turned America into, all caps, a corporation. And people don't realize this. The bottom of the trilateral city-states is the District of Columbia, and this is when these initial steps were put in place. Because the people who came before us also weren't very bright and or willing to do the right thing. Keep in mind, in modern times, today, people are dumber than they used to be. And most people don't realize that. That should shake you up, but most people aren't going to think about it because most people can't think for themselves because they don't have an imagination cap to adjust. They could, but they don't. It's a temporary system, which means you can pull your head out of your ass, but you have to choose that adventure, and most people don't want to. Because it's really easy to go back to that analogy I just showed you. To drive that point home again, our masters are urging you to buy a broken clock that doesn't reflect reality. Disconnected horseshit. This is why people talk about quote-unquote planets. Not wandering stars, typically speaking. You'll hear kids in the flat earth community and the globe theory both talk about planets because they're both reinforcing the same fucking narrative because people are not thinking for themselves. As always, what the fuck do I know? If you hung out, thanks for sitting through this and considering what I said.